Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the horizon's edge, watching the stars through the main window. The ship had been traveling through deep space for 3 months now. Their mission was simple: explore new areas of the galaxy and look for signs of life. So far, they had found nothing but empty space and dead planets. "Captain, we're picking up something strange on the sensors," said Lieutenant Danny Brooks from his station. His voice carried excitement that Jake had not heard in weeks. Jake walked over to Danny's console. The screen showed a blinking dot that definitely was not a star or planet. "What do you think it is?" "It's moving, sir. And it's big. Much bigger than our ship." Danny's fingers moved quickly over his controls. "It's heading straight for us." Dr. Lisa Warren, the ship's head scientist, looked up from her research station. She was a small woman with brown hair, who always seemed to be thinking about something. "Could it be natural? Maybe some kind of space creature?" "No, Doctor. The movement pattern is too regular. This is definitely artificial." Danny turned to look at Jake. "Captain, I think we might have found what we've been looking for." Jake felt his heart beat faster. After decades of searching, humanity might finally meet another intelligent species. "Red alert. All hands to stations. But keep weapons powered down. We don't want to seem hostile." The crew moved quickly to their positions. Jake had trained with these people for 2 years before the mission. He trusted them completely. But none of their training had prepared them for this moment. "Visual contact in 30 seconds, announced Communications Officer Carol Price. She was young but very good at her job. The main screen flickered and then showed the approaching ship. Jake heard several crew members gasp. The vessel was unlike anything they had ever seen. It looked like it was made of crystal, with smooth curves that seemed to flow like water. Beautiful blue and green lights moved along its surface in patterns that reminded Jake of ocean waves. "It's beautiful," whispered Dr. Warren. The alien ship slowed as it approached. It was easily 3 times the size of the horizon's edge. The lights on its surface began to pulse in what looked like a rhythm. "They're trying to communicate," said Carol. "I'm detecting some kind of signal pattern. Can you understand it?" "Not yet, but I'm working on it." Suddenly, a section of the alien ship opened like a flower blooming. Something began to emerge from the opening. It looked like a cloud of golden particles that sparkled in the starlight. "Captain," said Dr. Warren, "I'm reading some kind of organic compounds in that cloud. It might be their way of greeting us." Jake nodded. "Lower our shields. Let's show them we're friendly." The golden cloud drifted toward their ship. As it got closer, Jake could see that it was made of tiny floating particles that moved like living things. It was actually quite beautiful. The cloud touched their ship's hull and began to spread across the surface. Within minutes, some of the particles had found their way into the ship's air system. That was when everything went wrong. Lieutenant Brooks suddenly started coughing. Then Carol began sneezing violently. Dr. Warren's face turned red and she started having trouble breathing. "Medical emergency," Jake shouted into his communicator. "All crew to emergency stations." More crew members began showing symptoms. Some were coughing so hard they could barely stand. Others had trouble breathing. A few developed red rashes on their skin. Dr. Warren managed to speak between coughs. "Captain, it's some kind of allergic reaction. The particles, they're causing our immune systems to overreact." Jake felt his own throat beginning to close up. Around him, his crew was suffering. Some were collapsing at their stations. In the medical bay, he could hear people crying out in pain. This was not a greeting. This was an attack. "All weapons online," Jake ordered, fighting to get the words out through his swelling throat. "Target the alien vessel." "Sir, are you sure?" Danny asked, but he was already moving to the weapons console. "They're killing us," Jake gasped. "Fire everything we have." The Horizon's Edge was not a military ship, but it carried standard plasma weapons for protection against space pirates and dangerous animals. Danny's hands moved quickly over the controls. Plasma cannons charged and ready. Fire! Blue bolts of energy shot from their ship toward the beautiful crystal vessel. Jake expected the aliens to raise shields or take evasive action. Instead, something terrible happened. The first plasma bolt hit the alien ship and passed right through its crystal hull like it was made of glass. The second bolt caused a section of the ship to crack and break apart. The third bolt hit something important because the entire vessel suddenly lit up with brilliant white light. "Their ship is breaking apart," Danny reported, his voice filled with shock. Jake watched in horror as the beautiful crystal ship fell to pieces. Chunks of the hull drifted away into space. The lovely blue and green lights went out one by one. Within minutes, nothing remained but floating debris. "Oh my God," whispered Carol. "What did we do?" The golden cloud around their ship immediately began to fade away. As it disappeared, the crew's symptoms started to improve. Jake's throat opened up and he could breathe normally again. Dr. Warren stumbled to her feet. "Captain, I don't think they were trying to hurt us. Their particles weren't designed to cause allergic reactions in humans. They probably didn't even know we would react that way." Jake stared at the wreckage floating in space. "You mean this was just a misunderstanding?" "I think so. Their greeting ritual was probably harmless to most species. They had no way of knowing it would nearly kill us." The bridge fell silent. Everyone was thinking the same thing. Humanity's first contact with an alien species had ended with the complete destruction of their ship. The aliens probably thought they were sending a friendly welcome. Instead, they had accidentally poisoned the human crew, and humanity's response had been to blow them out of space. "Sir," said Carol quietly, "I'm detecting other ships approaching. Lots of them." Jake looked at the sensor readings. A whole fleet of crystal ships was heading their way. Word was spreading fast. Humanity had just announced itself to the galaxy, and the message was clear: we are dangerous, we are deadly, and we shoot first. Ambassador Tony Rodriguez adjusted his tie for the 10th time as the shuttle approached Gamma Prime Station. This was the most important diplomatic mission in human history. After the disaster with the crystal ship 6 months ago, Earth's government had worked hard to arrange this meeting with the Galactic Council. "Nervous?" asked Dr. Amy Foster, sitting across from him. She was the best xenobiologist Earth had to offer, an expert in alien cultures and biology. Her job was to help Tony avoid any more deadly misunderstandings. "Terrified," Tony admitted. "The fate of our entire species might depend on the next few hours." Through the shuttle window, Gamma Prime looked like a giant metal flower floating in space. The station was neutral ground where different alien species could meet safely. It had been built specifically for diplomatic meetings between races that might not be able to survive on each other's planets. "Remember," Amy said, "we need to show them that humans are peaceful. We're bringing gifts to prove our good intentions." Tony nodded. The shuttle's cargo bay was filled with the best examples of human culture. Music from Bach to the Beatles, paintings from Da Vinci to Picasso, books from Shakespeare to modern literature, and movies showing the beauty and diversity of human civilization. The shuttle docked with a soft bump. Tony took a deep breath and picked up the ceremonial case containing their gifts. "Let's go make some friends." The airlock opened and they stepped into a corridor that seemed to be made of living metal. The walls shifted color as they walked, creating beautiful patterns that followed their movement. Tony had never seen anything like it. They were met by their guide, a tall alien with purple skin and 4 arms. The being introduced itself as Counselor Vexthari from the Galactic Council. It spoke through a translation device that made its voice sound musical. "Welcome, humans," Vexthari said. "The Council is eager to learn about your species. Please follow me to the meeting chamber." As they walked through the station, Tony noticed other aliens stopping to stare at them. Some quickly moved away when they saw the humans approaching. Others whispered to each other in languages the translation device could not handle. "They seem afraid of us," Amy whispered to Tony. "Hopefully we can change that," he replied. The meeting chamber was enormous, with seats arranged in a circle around a central platform. Representatives from dozens of alien species were already present. Tony saw beings with scales, others with fur, some that looked like walking plants, and a few that seemed to be made of energy rather than solid matter. Vexthari led them to the center platform. "Honored representatives," the purple alien announced. "I present Ambassador Tony Rodriguez and Dr. Amy Foster of the human species." A wave of nervous sounds moved through the chamber. Tony tried to smile reassuringly, but this seemed to make some of the aliens even more uncomfortable. "We come in peace," Tony began, his voice amplified by the station's systems. "We deeply regret the incident with the Cathara vessel. It was a terrible misunderstanding. We want to prove that humanity seeks friendship with all intelligent life." He opened the ceremonial case and began to explain their gifts. First came the music. The chamber's speakers played a selection of human melodies. Tony thought the aliens might enjoy the beautiful sounds, but many of them seemed disturbed by the dramatic changes in volume and rhythm. "This is our classical music," Tony explained. "These pieces express the full range of human emotion." What he did not know was that several of the alien species used sound patterns to establish dominance hierarchies. To them, Wagner's dramatic symphonies sounded like aggressive displays of power. The sudden loud sections seemed like sonic attacks designed to intimidate enemies. Next, Amy displayed examples of human art. The paintings and sculptures showed the beauty that humans could create. But the aliens focused on the war scenes and images of human conflicts that were included to show the complete history of human civilization. "This artwork represents thousands of years of human creativity," Amy said proudly. The aliens saw images of battles, weapons, and human warriors. To species that had evolved as peaceful herbivores, these pictures looked like instruction manuals for violence and conquest. Then came the movies. Tony had carefully selected films that showed the best of humanity. Science fiction movies about exploration and discovery, historical dramas about human courage and sacrifice, action movies showing human heroes protecting the innocent. The aliens watched in growing horror as humans on screen solved problems through violence. They saw human warriors fighting impossible odds and winning through superior tactics and weapons. They watched humans survive injuries that would kill most other species and keep fighting. "These are stories about human heroes," Tony explained. "They show our values of courage, loyalty, and protecting those who cannot protect themselves. But to the aliens, these looked like training videos. They saw a species that glorified warfare, celebrated violence, and taught their children to be warriors from an early age. The fact that humans made entertainment out of combat convinced many delegates that all humans were natural-born killers." The worst part came when the presentation included some nature documentaries. About Earth, the aliens watched humans living alongside predators that would terrify most galactic species. They saw humans swimming with sharks, hiking near dangerous animals, and treating deadly creatures as pets. "Our planet is very diverse," Amy said. "Humans have learned to live in harmony with all forms of life." The aliens saw something completely different. They saw a species that had conquered a death world filled with monsters. A species so dangerous that even their planet's apex predators had learned to submit to human dominance. Throughout the presentation, Tony and Amy noticed that many aliens seemed to be having physical reactions to their presence. Some were breathing heavily. Others kept glancing toward the exits. A few appeared to be sweating, though Tony was not sure if all these species could actually sweat. What the humans did not understand was that their natural scent was triggering fear responses in many herbivorous aliens. Humans smelled like predators because that is exactly what they were. Millions of years of evolution had given humans the chemical signature of a hunting species. "We hope these gifts show our peaceful intentions," Tony concluded. "We want to join the galactic community as friends and partners." The chamber was silent for a long moment. Then Vexthari stood up. "Thank you for this educational presentation. The Council will need time to discuss what we have learned about humanity." As Tony and Amy were escorted back to their shuttle, they felt hopeful. The aliens had seemed very interested in their presentation. Surely this would lead to better relationships between humans and the rest of the galaxy. They had no idea that the Galactic Council was already making emergency plans. The aliens had decided that humans were the most dangerous species they had ever encountered. A race of predators who made weapons for entertainment, conquered death worlds for fun, and used psychological warfare disguised as music and art. The Council's conclusion was unanimous. Humanity must be contained at all costs. Admiral Kevin Harris watched the training exercise from the bridge of the UES Victory. Around him, a dozen human ships moved through space in perfect formation. This was just a routine military drill, but Kevin wanted everything to go perfectly. The crew needed practice, and the new recruits needed to see how real space combat worked. "All ships report ready for exercise," announced Colonel Beth Turner from the communications station. She had been Kevin's second in command for 5 years, and he trusted her completely. "Begin exercise, Alpha 7, Kevin ordered. What Kevin did not know was that a fleet of Zephyrian warships was watching from a safe distance. The Zephyrians were the dominant military power in this sector of the galaxy. They had heard about the strange new species called humans, and wanted to see what all the fuss was about. War Commander Zethkol studied the human ships through his fleet's sensors. They appear to be conducting some kind of military demonstration, he told his officers. Perhaps they know we are watching. The Zephyrians had ruled this part of space for over 1,000 years. They were proud warriors who had never met a species that could match their military might. But the reports about humans had been disturbing. If even half the stories were true, these newcomers might be a serious threat. Sir, they're launching targets, reported Sensor Master Yilthun. The humans had deployed several large asteroids as practice targets. Each rock was about the size of a small moon, the kind of target that would require the Zephyrians' most powerful weapons to destroy. Lieutenant Danny Clark was piloting one of the smaller human ships. This was his first major training exercise, and he was nervous about performing well in front of the Admiral. His ship was old and scheduled for retirement, carrying weapons that were considered outdated by Earth military standards. Remember, people, came Kevin's voice over the communication system. This is just practice. Use the old equipment so we don't waste the good stuff. Danny grinned. The old equipment on his ship included plasma cannons that had been in service for 20 years. By human standards, they were practically antiques, but they still worked perfectly well for training purposes. Target acquired, Danny reported. Beginning attack run. He fired a single plasma bolt at the nearest asteroid. The beam hit the rock and punched completely through it. The asteroid cracked in half and began to drift apart. On the Zephyrian command ship, War Commander Zethkal stared at his sensors in disbelief. What kind of weapon was that? Unknown, sir, replied Sensor Master Yilthun. But the energy readings are unlike anything in our database. The Zephyrians had been watching the human ship that fired the shot. According to their sensors, it was small and poorly armed. Yet it had just destroyed a target that would require their fleet's combined firepower to damage. The exercise continued. Human ships moved through the target field, casually destroying asteroids with weapons that the Zephyrians could barely comprehend. The human pilots chatted and joked over their communication channels as if this was some kind of game. Nice shot, Danny, came a voice from another ship. But watch this. Lieutenant Carol Brooks fired what the humans called a practice torpedo at one of the larger asteroids. The weapon hit its target and completely vaporized the entire rock in a flash of blinding light. Show off, Danny laughed. Save some targets for the rest of us. The Zephyrian officers watched in growing horror. These humans were treating weapons of mass destruction like toys. They were laughing while casually demonstrating the ability to destroy planets. Sir, whispered Sensor Master Yilthun, their smallest weapons are more powerful than our main battle cannons. War Commander Zethkal felt his 3 hearts beating rapidly. The Zephyrians had always prided themselves on their military technology. Their ships were the most advanced in known space, their weapons the most devastating ever created. But compared to what they were seeing now, Zephyrian technology looked primitive. The human exercise continued for 2 hours. Ship after ship demonstrated capabilities that seemed impossible. They moved faster than anything the Zephyrians had ever seen. Their weapons could destroy targets from distances that the Zephyrian fleet could not even detect. But the most terrifying part was the humans' attitude. They treated this incredible display of firepower as routine. They complained when their shots were slightly off target. They competed with each other to see who could achieve the most spectacular destruction. Danny, your aim is getting sloppy, came Admiral Harris's voice over the radio. That asteroid is only mostly destroyed. Put another shot into it. Danny fired again, turning the remaining chunks of rock into glowing dust. Sorry, sir. I guess I need more practice. We all do, Kevin replied. That's why we drill with the old equipment. Can't afford to waste the new weapons on training. The Zephyrians heard this exchange and nearly panicked. If this was old equipment, what did their new weapons look like? How advanced was human military technology if they considered planet-killing weapons to be outdated? Colonel Turner's voice came over the communication system. All ships prepare for close combat maneuvers. Remember, this is just practice, so try not to damage each other too badly. The human ships began a series of mock battles, moving at speeds that made the Zephyrian sensors struggle to track them. They performed maneuvers that should have torn their ships apart from the gravitational forces involved. Yet the human pilots continued their casual conversation as if they were taking a pleasant walk in the park. Kevin, your ship is leaking plasma from the port engine, one pilot mentioned. I know, Kevin replied. We'll fix it after the exercise. It's just a small breach. The Zephyrians detected the plasma leak he was talking about. By their standards, it was a catastrophic system failure that would require immediate evacuation of the ship. The humans were treating it like a minor inconvenience. As the exercise wound down, Admiral Harris addressed his fleet. "Good work, everyone. Not perfect, but not bad for using 20-year-old equipment. Next week, we'll try the same drill with the current generation weapons." War Commander Zethkal made a decision that would change galactic history. "All ships retreat to maximum safe distance. Send an immediate message to the High Command. Tell them that the humans are not just another spacefaring species. They are a military force beyond anything we have ever encountered." The Zephyrian fleet quickly withdrew, leaving the humans to finish their training exercise in peace. Within hours, reports of what the Zephyrians had witnessed were spreading throughout the galaxy. The story grew with each telling. Soon, every military power in known space believed that humans possessed weapons that could destroy solar systems, ships that could move faster than thought, and warriors who treated planetary conquest as recreational activity. None of it was true, of course. The humans had simply been conducting a routine training exercise with standard military equipment. But to alien eyes accustomed to much lower levels of technology, humanity's casual display of power looked like a demonstration of overwhelming force. The galaxy's military leaders reached the same conclusion as the Zephyrians. Humans were not just dangerous, they were invincible. Any species that used planet killers for target practice and treated catastrophic system failures as minor problems was clearly far beyond anything the galaxy could hope to match. The age of human dominance had begun, and humanity had no idea it was happening. Dr. Peter Kim wiped sweat from his forehead as he watched the massive mining machines work. The planet Kepler 442b was turning out to be exactly what Earth needed, rich in rare minerals and completely uninhabited. At least that was what the surveys had indicated. "The fusion drills are working perfectly," reported Sandra Bell, the chief mining engineer. She was a tough woman who had spent 15 years extracting resources from dead planets. "We should have the first mine shaft completed by tomorrow." Peter nodded, checking the readings on his tablet. The mining operation was going smoothly. Their equipment was standard for human industrial operations. Plasma excavators that could cut through solid rock, fusion-powered drills that could bore through a planet's crust, and gravitational processors that could separate valuable minerals from worthless stone. None of the human workers realized they were being watched. Deep beneath the planet's surface, in a network of tunnels that human sensors had missed, lived the Thornics. They were small insectoid beings, about the size of human children, with hard shells and multiple arms perfect for digging. They had been living peacefully on Kepler 442b for thousands of years. Hive-mind Clicktet was the first to sense the disturbance above. The vibrations in the rock were unlike anything the Thornics had ever experienced. "Something is happening on the surface," Clicktet told the other hive leaders. "Something terrible." The Thornics sent scouts to investigate. What they found horrified them. Enormous human machines were tearing apart the planet's surface. Mountains that had stood for millions of years were being reduced to dust in minutes. Rivers were being diverted to flush away unwanted material. The humans were reshaping the entire landscape as if it were made of soft clay. Scout Tikakar returned to the hive with a report that sent shockwaves through Thornic society. "They are not just mining," Tikakar reported. "They are changing the very structure of the planet. Their machines can move continents." The Thornics had developed their own technology over the centuries, but it was designed for careful, precise work. They could carve beautiful tunnels through solid rock, but it took them years to complete major projects. What they were seeing on the surface would have required their entire civilization working together for thousands of years, and the humans were doing it in weeks. Peter was pleased with their progress. The mining operation was ahead of schedule and under budget. Earth's corporations would be very happy with the mineral yields they were achieving. "How long until we can start the deep extraction?" he asked Sandra. "Give me another week to set up the quantum bore system," she replied. "Once that's online, we can reach the planet's core if we need to." The quantum bore system was just another piece of standard human mining equipment. It used controlled gravitational fields to drill through any material, no matter how dense. To human engineers, it was a useful tool for reaching deep mineral deposits. To the Thornics watching from below, it looked like a weapon that could split planets in half. They have devices that can reach the core, Tikakar reported to the terrified hive minds. If they activate these machines, our entire world could be destroyed. The Thornics held an emergency council of all the hives. For the first time in their history, every Thornics community on the planet was represented in a single gathering. "What kind of beings are these humans?" asked Hivemind Zektul. "What do they want with our world?" "Perhaps they are testing their world-killing weapons," suggested Hivemind Yilrix. "This could be preparation for a larger invasion." The Thornics had heard stories from other insectoid species about the humans. Tales of ships destroyed without warning, of military demonstrations that could vaporize asteroids, of weapons so powerful that humans used them for entertainment. Now they were witnessing human industrial capability firsthand. Up on the surface, the human workers continued their job without any idea that they were being observed. To them, this was just another routine extraction operation. "The gravitational processors are working at full capacity," reported Mechanic Carl Davis. "We're pulling rare earth elements out of the rock faster than the transport ships can haul them away." "Excellent," said Peter. "Corporate will want us to expand operations. I'm thinking we could have 50 mining sites operational within 6 months." Sandra checked her geological surveys. "The planet can definitely handle it. We've got enough raw materials here to supply Earth's needs for decades." What the humans saw as efficient resource management, the Thornics interpreted as preparation for galactic conquest. The speed and scale of human mining operations convinced them that this was just the beginning of something much larger. "They plan to strip our entire world," reported Scout Fictul after observing the human expansion plans. "And when they are finished here, they will move on to other planets." The Thornics reached a desperate conclusion. They were witnessing the beginning of a galactic strip mining operation that would consume entire star systems. The situation got worse when human prospecting teams began exploring other parts of the planet. They used seismic charges to map underground mineral deposits, not knowing that these explosions were destroying Thornic settlements. "They are attacking our colonies," Hivemind Clicktet reported. "They know we are here and they are trying to force us out." The truth was much simpler. The human geological surveys had detected the Thornics tunnel systems, but classified them as natural cave formations. The seismic charges were just standard prospecting tools, not weapons, but to the Thornics under attack from explosions they could not understand. It looked like a systematic campaign to drive them from their homes. Peter was excited when the survey results came back. "Sandra, look at this. The mineral deposits go much deeper than we thought. We could potentially mine this planet for centuries. Should I start planning for permanent facilities?" Sandra asked. "Definitely. I'm going to recommend that Earth establish a major industrial base here. This could become one of our primary mining worlds." The Thornics intercepted these human communications and translated them with growing horror. The humans were not just planning to strip mine Kepler 442b. They were planning to turn it into a permanent base for mining operations throughout the galaxy. "It is worse than we feared," Hivemind Zektul told the Emergency Council. "They intend to use our world as a staging ground for the conquest of all inhabited planets." The Thornics made a decision that would have far-reaching consequences. They began sending messages to every species in the galactic communication network, warning them about the human threat. "The humans have world-destroying machines," their messages said. "They can reshape planets in days. They are planning to consume every mineral-rich world in the galaxy. No planet will be safe from their industrial conquest." These warnings spread quickly through alien communication networks. Species that had never heard of humans suddenly learned that a new threat was loose in the galaxy. A species so industrially advanced that they could strip mine entire worlds as easily as picking fruit from a tree. The mining operation on Kepler 442b continued peacefully, with Peter and his team completely unaware of the panic they were causing. They were just doing their jobs using standard human technology to extract resources from what they thought was an uninhabited planet. But to the galaxy at large, humanity had just demonstrated that they possessed industrial capabilities beyond anything previously imagined. The ability to reshape worlds at will, to consume planets faster than most species could build cities, and to treat planetary engineering as routine business. The message was clear. Humans were not just warriors, they were world devourers, and they were expanding their operations throughout the galaxy. Captain Roy Johnson was finishing his morning coffee when the emergency signal came through. The distress call was weak and broken, but the message was clear. A passenger ship was in trouble near the Nexus black hole. "All hands to stations," Roy announced over the ship's communication system. "We have a rescue mission." The UES Defiant was one of Earth's fastest search and rescue ships. Roy had been running rescue operations for 12 years, and his crew was the best in the business. They specialized in impossible saves, the kind of missions that other ships could not handle. "Captain, I'm reading the distress signal," reported Communications Officer Linda Hayes. "It's the passenger liner Serenity. They're carrying diplomatic passengers from 12 different species." "What's their situation?" Roy asked as he settled into the captain's chair. "Engine failure. They're caught in the black hole's gravity well and can't escape on their own," replied Sensor Operator Carl White. "They've got maybe 6 hours before they reach the event horizon," Roy whistled softly. Rescuing a ship from a black hole's gravity well was one of the most dangerous operations in space. The gravitational forces could crush most vessels, and the radiation levels were deadly to most forms of life. "Plot a course for the Nexus system," Roy ordered. "Maximum speed." The Defiant jumped to faster-than-light travel, racing toward the disaster site. In the ship's medical bay, Dr. Holly Grant prepared for the worst. She had no idea what kinds of injuries they might encounter, especially among alien passengers whose biology she barely understood. 4 hours later, they dropped out of FTL Drive near the black hole. The sight that greeted them was terrifying even by human standards. The Serenity was a massive ship, designed to carry thousands of passengers in luxury, but now it was tumbling helplessly toward the swirling darkness of the event horizon. "Holy cow," muttered pilot Danny Foster. "That thing is huge. How are we supposed to pull it out of there?" "Very carefully," Roy replied. "Carl, give me a full sensor sweep. I want to know exactly what we're dealing with." The sensor readings were not encouraging. The Serenity was badly damaged, with multiple hull breaches and failing life support systems. Worse, it was already deep in the black hole's gravity well, where the gravitational forces would tear apart most rescue ships. "Captain," said Linda, "I'm getting a message from the Serenity. They're asking us to retreat to a safe distance and wait for a Galactic Council rescue fleet." "How long until the Council fleet arrives?" Roy asked. 18 hours, sir." Roy shook his head. "They'll be dead by then. We're going in." What Roy did not know was that the passengers aboard the Serenity included some of the galaxy's most important diplomats. Representatives from species that had never worked together before were forced to cooperate in this crisis. And they were all watching to see what the notorious humans would do. Ambassador Veltar of the Crystalline Collective had heard the stories about human military power. War leader Grixton of the Zephyrians had witnessed human training exercises firsthand. Agricultural Minister Yixpel of the Thornix had seen reports of human world-consuming machines. Now they were all trapped together, watching as a single human ship approached their doomed vessel. "The humans are coming closer," reported the Serenity's captain, a nervous Altarian named Zekmol. "They appear to be planning some kind of rescue attempt." "Impossible," said Ambassador Veltar. "No ship can survive in a black hole's gravity well. Even our most advanced vessels would be torn apart." On the Defiant, Roy was preparing for the most difficult rescue of his career. "Danny, I need you to take us into the gravity well. Follow the spiral path down, but keep our engines at full power." "Sir, are you sure about this?" Danny asked. "The gravitational stress could tear us apart." "Trust me," Roy replied. "I've done this before." What Danny did not know was that Roy had attempted a black hole rescue only once before, and it had nearly killed him. But he was not about to let thousands of innocent people die if there was any chance of saving them. The Defiant began its descent into the black hole's gravity well. The ship's hull groaned under the enormous gravitational forces. Warning alarms blared as various systems approached their safety limits. "Hull stress at 80% of maximum," reported Carl. "But we're still holding together." "Radiation levels are climbing fast," added Dr. Grant. "We'll need to limit our exposure time." Remained calm despite the chaos around him. "Linda, open a channel to the Serenity. Let them know we're coming." On the passenger liner, the alien diplomats watched in amazement as the human ship descended toward them. The gravitational forces that were slowly crushing their massive vessel seemed to barely affect the smaller human craft. "How is that possible?" whispered War Leader Grixton. Their ship should have been destroyed by now. What the aliens did not understand was that human ships were built to much higher safety standards than most galactic vessels. Earth's dangerous environment had taught human engineers to over-engineer everything. The Defiant could survive forces that would destroy ships twice its size. Approaching the Serenity now, Danny reported, but I don't see how we can pull them out. They're 10 times our size. We're not going to pull them, Roy explained. We're going to push them. Carl, target their main engines with our tractor beam. If we can restart their propulsion system, they might be able to escape on their own. It was an incredibly dangerous plan. Using a tractor beam inside a black hole's gravity risked overloading their entire power system. But it was the only chance they had. Tractor beam engaged, Carl reported. I'm feeding power directly into their engine cores. The Serenity's engines flickered to life, but they were too damaged to provide enough thrust. The massive ship continued its slow fall toward the event horizon. It's not working, Linda said. They need more power. Roy made a decision that would become legendary throughout the galaxy. Transfer all power from our life support systems to the tractor beam. We'll hold our breath if we have to, sir. That could kill us, Dr. Grant protested. Not as dead as those passengers will be if we don't try, Roy replied. The Defiant's entire power grid was redirected to the tractor beam. The ship's lights dimmed and the artificial gravity fluctuated. But the plan worked. The Serenity's engines roared to life with enough power to break free from the black hole's grip. They're moving, Danny shouted. They're actually climbing out of the gravity well. But the Defiant was now in serious trouble. With no power for their own engines, they were falling toward the black hole themselves. Danny, restart our engines as soon as the Serenity is clear, Roy ordered. We're going to have about 30 seconds before we hit the point of no return. The next few minutes were the longest of their lives. The Defiant fell deeper into the gravity well while the Serenity slowly climbed to safety. With only seconds to spare, Danny restarted their engines and pulled them out of the black hole's deadly embrace. Both ships escaped, but the rescue had taken hours of dangerous flying through conditions that would kill most crews. Aboard the Serenity, the alien diplomats sat in stunned silence. They had just watched humans risk their lives to save complete strangers. More importantly, they had seen humans treat a black hole rescue as just another day at the office. Did you hear their communications during the rescue? Ambassador Veltar asked the others. Yes, replied War Leader Grixton. They were joking. In the middle of a black hole gravity well, with death only minutes away, they were making jokes. The human crew's casual banter during the rescue had been picked up by the Serenity's communication systems. The aliens had heard Roy complain about missing lunch. Danny joked about his girlfriend's reaction when he told her about this mission, and Dr. Grant hum while treating radiation sickness. To species that found black holes terrifying beyond imagination, the humans' casual attitude was incomprehensible. Agricultural Minister Yixpel spoke for all of them. What kind of beings treat flying into a black hole as routine? What kind of species jokes about death while performing impossible rescues? The answer, they concluded, was obvious. Humans were so technologically advanced and biologically superior that they found cosmic hazards amusing. A species that could casually rescue ships from black holes was clearly beyond anything the galaxy had previously encountered. Within days, the story of the rescue had spread throughout known space. But like all human actions, it was misunderstood. The galaxy heard that humans had effortlessly pulled a massive ship out of a black hole while laughing about the experience. The diplomatic passengers became unwilling ambassadors for human power, spreading the word that humans treated impossible tasks as minor inconveniences and found deadly situations entertaining. Humanity's reputation as an unstoppable force grew even stronger. Victor Lee sat in the production studio, reviewing the final list of sports broadcasts. As Earth's Director of Cultural Exchange, he had been tasked with showing the galaxy the peaceful side of humanity. After months of misunderstandings about human military power, Earth's government wanted to prove that humans were more than just warriors. This should do it, Victor said to his assistant, Melissa Clark. Sports are the perfect way to show aliens that humans can be competitive without being violent. Melissa nodded, looking at the schedule. We've got everything covered. Football, basketball, hockey, boxing, mixed martial arts, rugby, and some extreme sports, plus historical footage from the Olympics going back 50 years. Perfect, Victor replied. Nothing says peaceful civilization like athletic competition. The broadcast was set to reach every corner of the galaxy through the Galactic Communication Network. For the first time, alien species would see how humans entertained themselves when they were not exploring space or conducting military exercises. Victor had no idea that he was about to make humanity's reputation even more terrifying. The broadcast began with American football. Victor had chosen a classic game between two well-matched teams, thinking it would show human strategic thinking and teamwork. On the planet Zarian Prime, Ambassador Kexval of the Gentle Collective gathered with other diplomats to watch this glimpse into human culture. The Gentle Collective were peaceful herbivores who had never experienced violence in their entire evolutionary history. Perhaps this will show us the true nature of humanity, Kexval said hopefully. The football game began, and within minutes the alien viewers were horrified. They watched as large armored humans crashed into each other at high speed. Players were tackled violently to the ground, then got up and did it again. The crowds cheered loudest when the collisions were most brutal. "They are fighting," whispered cultural analyst Yextan, "and the spectators are enjoying it." "Look at their protective equipment," observed military attaché Zexkill. "They need armor just to participate in recreational activities." The aliens saw something that humans took for granted, a contact sport where physical confrontation was the entire point. To species that avoided conflict at all costs, football looked like ritualized warfare designed to train warriors and entertain bloodthirsty crowds. The broadcast continued with basketball. Victor thought this would be better since it involved less physical contact. But the aliens focused on different details. "Look at their physical capabilities," Kexval said, watching players jump impossible heights and move with incredible speed. "They leap like they have anti-gravity devices. And their accuracy," added Yextan. "They can hit targets from great distances while moving at high speed." What humans saw as athletic skill, the aliens interpreted as evidence of superhuman physical abilities. The sight of humans effortlessly performing feats that would be impossible for most species convinced the viewers that human bodies were far more advanced than previously thought. Hockey was even worse. The aliens watched in shock as armored humans moved at high speed across a frozen surface, wielding sticks like weapons and deliberately colliding with each other. "They fight on ice," observed Zexkill. "This must be training for combat in hostile environments." The fact that hockey players sometimes fought each other during games convinced the aliens that humans were so naturally aggressive they could not even play games without breaking into battle. But nothing prepared the alien viewers for boxing and mixed martial arts. On the water world of Aquatica, fish speaker Blubglub watched the boxing match with growing terror. His species had never developed the concept of intentional violence. The sight of two humans deliberately trying to hurt each other while crowds cheered was beyond his understanding. "They strike each other with their appendages," Blubglub reported to his council, "and they seem to enjoy causing pain." The boxing match showed humans absorbing punishment that would kill most alien species, then continuing to fight. When one boxer was knocked down but got back up to continue the match, the alien viewers nearly panicked. "Their pain tolerance is incredible," observed science swimmer Deep Current. "They can survive injuries that would be fatal to us." Mixed martial arts was even more disturbing. The aliens watched humans use combat techniques that looked like they came from warrior training manuals. Grappling, striking, submission holds, every move was designed to defeat an opponent through superior fighting skills. "This is their military training," concluded war analyst Finstrike. "They are showing us how they prepare their warriors." The extreme sports segment convinced the aliens that humans were completely insane. They watched people jumping out of aircraft, climbing sheer cliff faces, surfing giant waves, and racing vehicles at deadly speeds. "They seek out danger for entertainment," reported cultural observer Wave Rider. "They actually pursue life-threatening situations for pleasure," the sight of humans voluntarily engaging in activities that would terrify most species convinced the aliens that human biology was so advanced that deadly situations felt safe to them. But the most disturbing part came with the historical Olympic footage. Victor had included this to show how humans had been peacefully competing for centuries. Instead, the aliens saw something completely different. The footage showed human physical capabilities improving dramatically over just 50 years. Runners getting faster, jumpers reaching greater heights, swimmers moving through water like aquatic predators. To alien eyes, this looked like evidence of a species-wide enhancement program. "They are evolving," gasped evolutionary biologist Gene Splice on the Science World of Darwin's Rest. "In just a few decades, they have significantly improved their physical capabilities." "This is not natural evolution," argued genetic engineer Helix Twist. "This is deliberate enhancement. They are artificially improving their species." The Olympics footage, combined with the other sports, painted a picture of a species that was rapidly becoming superhuman through systematic physical conditioning. The aliens concluded that humans were using their recreational activities as a cover for a military enhancement program. On the war world of Sparta 7th, General Bloodfang of the warrior clans watched the human sports broadcasts with professional interest. His species were the most militaristic in the galaxy, devoted entirely to combat and conquest. "These humans," Bloodfang told his officers, "they understand warfare better than we do." "How so, General?" asked Colonel Scarface. "Look at their training methods," Bloodfang explained. "They begin conditioning their warriors as children. Every human participates in combat sports. Even their entertainment is designed to select and train the strongest fighters." The warrior clans had always prided themselves on being the galaxy's premier fighting force. But watching human sports convinced them that humanity was operating on a completely different level. "They do not just train soldiers," Bloodfang continued. "They train their entire population for war. Every human is a potential warrior." The broadcast ended with a montage of human athletes celebrating victories, showing the joy and passion that sports brought to human culture. Victor was pleased with how it had turned out. "That should show them that humans know how to have fun," he told Melissa. But across the galaxy, the reaction was exactly the opposite of what Victor had intended. Species after species reached the same conclusion. Humans were a warrior race so advanced that even their entertainment was a form of military training. The sports broadcasts became evidence that humans were systematically enhancing their physical capabilities, training every member of their species for combat, and treating deadly activities as recreational fun. Reports flooded into the Galactic Council from every corner of known space. The message was unanimous. Humanity was not just technologically superior, they were biologically superior as well. A species that could absorb punishment that would kill others, perform physical feats that seemed impossible, and treat life-threatening situations as entertainment. The galaxy's conclusion was inescapable. Humans were not just the most dangerous military force in known space. They were the most dangerous life form that had ever evolved, and they did it all while having fun. Dr. Alex Murphy received the emergency call at 3 a.m. As Earth's leading specialist in infectious diseases, he was used to urgent situations. But this was different. This was a call from the Pan-Galactic Health Authority, and they sounded terrified. Dr. Murphy came the voice of Health Director Yilmax through the translator. "We have a situation that requires immediate human assistance." Alex sat up in bed, instantly alert. "What kind of situation?" "A plague ship. It's carrying void fever, the most deadly disease known to galactic civilization. The ship is drifting into human space and we cannot approach it safely." Alex had never heard of void fever, but the panic in the alien's voice told him everything he needed to know. "What are the symptoms?" "Complete system failure within hours of exposure. No species has ever survived infection. No cure has ever been developed. The disease has wiped out entire colonies." "And you want us to investigate?" "You are our only hope," Yilmax replied. "Human medical technology might be advanced enough to handle the situation safely." Alex grabbed his emergency kit and called his team. Emergency Response Coordinator Rachel Martinez met him at the spaceport, along with the best medical staff Earth could provide. "What do we know about this plague?" Rachel asked as their ship launched toward the quarantine zone. "Almost nothing," Alex admitted. "But apparently it's killed everything that's ever encountered it." The alien authorities had provided them with a complete database of information about void fever. Alex spent the flight studying the records, and what he found was truly disturbing. Void fever had appeared throughout galactic history, always with the same result. Entire star systems evacuated, colonies abandoned, ships destroyed rather than risk the spread of infection. The disease was so deadly that most species considered it a death sentence for any world it touched. According to these records, Alex told his team, void fever has a 100% fatality rate. Every species that has encountered it has been completely wiped out. Maybe we should think about this, suggested Dr. Sarah Kim, the team's microbiologist. If this disease is as dangerous as they say, we have to try, Alex replied. If that ship reaches an inhabited system, millions could die. What Alex did not know was that representatives from dozens of alien species were monitoring the human response. The plague ship had been drifting for weeks and no one had been willing to approach it. Even the galactic health authorities, most advanced containment vessels, were considered insufficient for dealing with void fever. The human ship medical response reached the quarantine zone and found the plague vessel drifting, dark and silent through space. It was a massive cargo hauler, the kind used to transport goods between star systems. Life signs? Alex asked. Negative, reported sensor specialist Tom Wilson. Whatever happened here, it happened fast. Alex suited up in standard human biohazard gear. It was advanced by Earth standards, but primitive compared to the containment systems most alien species would require for this mission. Sir, said Rachel, are you sure about this? Maybe we should study the situation from a distance first. Someone has to go over there, Alex replied, and I'm the most qualified person on the team. What the watching aliens did not know was that Alex was not being brave. He was being typically human, practical, determined, and slightly reckless. Earth's dangerous environment had taught humans to face unknown threats head-on, rather than wait for perfect solutions. Alex transferred to the plague ship and began his investigation. The vessel's crew compartments told a horrifying story. Bodies everywhere, all showing signs of rapid system failure. Whatever void fever was, it worked fast. I'm taking tissue samples, Alex reported back to his team. The victims appear to have died within hours of exposure. Be careful, Alex, came Rachel's voice over the radio. We don't know how this thing spreads. Alex collected samples from the crew and the ship's environment, then returned to the medical response for analysis. Standard human decontamination procedures seemed adequate for the task. He felt fine. In the ship's laboratory, Alex and his team began studying void fever for the first time. What they found was fascinating from a scientific perspective. It's definitely organic, reported Dr. Kim. Some kind of virus, but unlike anything in our databases. How does it kill so quickly? Alex asked. It appears to attack the nervous system first, then spreads to major organs. Very efficient design. Alex felt a slight headache coming on, but he attributed it to stress and lack of sleep. He had been working for 12 hours straight, analyzing the most dangerous pathogen in galactic history. I'm getting some interesting results from the genetic analysis, Dr. Kim continued. This virus is incredibly complex. It's almost like it was designed to be universal. What do you mean? It seems to be able to adapt to any biological system it encounters. That's why it's been so effective against different alien species. Alex's headache was getting worse, but he continued working. The team needed to understand this disease if they were going to develop a cure. 6 hours later, Alex realized what was happening. He had been infected with void fever from the moment he stepped onto the plague ship. But instead of dying, his immune system was fighting the infection. Rachel, he called over the communicator, I need you to run a medical scan on me. Why? Are you feeling okay? Just do it. The results were astonishing. Alex was definitely infected with void fever, but the virus was losing the battle against his immune system. His body was not just fighting off the infection, it was completely neutralizing it. How is this possible? Dr. Kim asked, staring at the medical readings. Human immune systems, Alex said with growing excitement. We evolved on a world with incredible biological diversity. Our bodies are designed to fight off anything. What Alex did not fully understand was just how unique Earth's biosphere was. Most alien homeworlds were relatively simple, with limited pathogen diversity. Their immune systems had never faced the kind of biological warfare that Earth life dealt with every day. Humans had evolved in an environment where millions of different bacteria, viruses, fungi, and parasites were constantly trying to kill them. Human immune systems were the most advanced biological defense mechanisms in the galaxy. I think I can synthesize a cure, Alex announced. My body has already figured out how to defeat this virus. We just need to replicate the process. Working around the clock, Alex and his team developed a treatment for void fever. They used Alex's immune response as a template, creating synthetic antibodies that could be administered to other species. 3 days after first encountering the plague ship, Alex transmitted his report to the Pan-Galactic Health Authority. Void fever has been neutralized, he announced. We have developed a complete cure. The disease no longer poses a threat to galactic civilization. The reaction from alien authorities was immediate and terrifying. Not terrifying because of the disease, but because of what humanity had just demonstrated. Health Director Yilmex could barely speak. You cured void fever? In 3 days? Actually, my body cured it in about 6 hours, Alex replied cheerfully. The rest of the time was spent figuring out how to replicate the process for other species. Across the galaxy, medical authorities went into emergency session. The implications of what had just happened were staggering. Humans had not just survived the most deadly disease in galactic history. They had been immune to it from the start. More terrifying, they had developed a cure in mere days using what they described as basic medical technology. If humans are immune to void fever, Medical Chief Zexalth told the Emergency Council, what other diseases are they immune to? All of them, replied pathology expert Vexel. If their immune systems can handle void fever, they can probably handle anything. The conclusion was inescapable. Humans were biologically immune to all known diseases. They were walking biological weapons who could survive any plague and develop cures faster than most species could analyze the pathogens. But the most terrifying possibility was one that no alien wanted to speak aloud. If humans were immune to all diseases, maybe it was because they had developed all diseases. Maybe their immune systems were so advanced because they had been exposed to biological weapons that they had created themselves. The galaxy reached a horrifying conclusion. Humans were not just immune to biological warfare, they were probably masters of it. A species that could cure any plague in days had probably developed plagues as weapons centuries ago. Dr. Alex Murphy returned to Earth, completely unaware that his routine medical response had convinced the galaxy that humanity possessed the most advanced biological weapons program in cosmic history. The accidental empire continued to grow, built on one misunderstanding after another. Commander Gary Thompson adjusted his dress uniform nervously as the shuttle approached the Grand Assembly Station. This was supposed to be humanity's moment of triumph, the day when all the misunderstandings of the past year would finally be cleared up. I still can't believe they called a full galactic assembly just to meet with us, said diplomatic aide Nicole Adams, checking her notes one final time. 300 species all in one place. It shows how seriously they're taking this, Gary replied. After all the confusion, they must really want to establish proper diplomatic relations. Gary and Nicole represented Earth's best hope for peaceful contact with the galaxy. Gary was a career diplomat with 20 years of experience in international relations. Nicole was a xenolinguist who spoke 15 alien languages fluently. Together, they were supposed to convince the galaxy that humans were friendly neighbors, not the terrifying warriors that rumors had made them out to be. Remember, Nicole said, our job is to explain that everything has been a misunderstanding. The destroyed ship, the military exercises, the mining operations, the rescue mission, the sports broadcasts, the plague response, all innocent activities that were misinterpreted. Right, Gary agreed. We just need to show them who we really are. The shuttle docked with the Grand Assembly Station, a massive structure that had been built specifically for this meeting. Gary had never seen anything like it. The station was large enough to house representatives from every major species in the galaxy, with environmental controls that could accommodate life forms ranging from methane-breathing ice dwellers to plasma-based energy beings. They were met at the airlock by Protocol Master Zelnavek, a tall, elegant being with silver skin and multiple eyes. Despite the translation device, Gary could hear nervousness in the alien's voice. Welcome to the Grand Assembly, humans, Zelnavek said. The Council of Representatives is eager to discuss your species' role in galactic civilization. Gary smiled, trying to project confidence and friendliness. He had no idea that his smile was being interpreted as a predator's threat display by several herbivorous species watching. Through security monitors, they were escorted through corridors filled with the most diverse collection of beings Gary had ever imagined. Crystalline entities that chimed when they moved. Gaseous clouds that somehow maintained coherent shapes. Massive creatures that looked like living mountains. tiny beings that flew through the air like organic spacecraft. All of them stopped whatever they were doing to stare at the humans. "They seem very interested in us," Nicole whispered. "Probably just curious," Gary replied, waving at a group of small, furry aliens. The creatures immediately scattered in terror. The main assembly hall was breathtaking. Thousands of representatives from across the galaxy were arranged in a vast amphitheater. Each species had been provided with appropriate environmental controls, creating a rainbow of different atmospheric conditions throughout the chamber. At the center of the hall was a raised platform where Gary and Nicole would address the assembly. As they walked toward it, a hush fell over the enormous crowd. "Representatives of the galactic community," announced Supreme Coordinator Velthara, a being that looked like it was made of living crystal. "We are gathered here today to address the arrival of the human species." Gary stepped up to the speaking platform, feeling the weight of history on his shoulders. This was humanity's chance to join the galactic community as friends and equals. "Honored representatives," Gary began, his voice carried throughout the hall by the station's advanced communication systems. "I am Commander Gary Thompson of Earth. Come before you today to clear up the misunderstandings that have occurred between our species." Ripple of what sounded like nervous laughter passed through parts of the assembly. Gary took this as a good sign and continued. "The destruction of the Kethara vessel was a tragic accident. We thought we were being attacked and responded in self-defense. We deeply regret this incident and want to make amends." What Gary did not know was that the assembled representatives had spent months analyzing every detail of humanity's actions. To them, the accidental destruction of the first alien ship they encountered was clearly a demonstration of overwhelming force designed to establish dominance. "The military exercises you may have observed were routine training operations," Gary continued. "We use older equipment for practice so we don't waste our advanced weapons on training." Several representatives made what sounded like frightened chirping noises. To them, Gary had just confirmed that humans considered planet-destroying weapons to be older equipment, not worth preserving. "Our mining operations are simply resource extraction using standard industrial equipment. We have no intention of conquering or consuming other worlds." The Thornix delegation huddled together in terror. If humans considered world-reshaping machines to be standard industrial equipment, what did their military hardware look like? Gary was beginning to notice that his explanations were not having the desired effect. The alien representatives seemed to be getting more agitated, not less. "The rescue operation near the Nexus black hole was a humanitarian mission," he continued. "We risked our lives to save passengers in distress regardless of their species." To the aliens, this was the most terrifying statement yet. Humans considered black hole rescues to be routine humanitarian work. What kind of beings treated cosmic hazards as minor inconveniences? Nicole decided to try a different approach. "The sports broadcasts were meant to show our peaceful culture. Humans compete with each other for entertainment, not to cause harm." The assembled representatives had seen those broadcasts. They knew exactly what human entertainment looked like. Ritualized combat designed to train warriors and select the strongest fighters for military service. "Our response to the Void Fever outbreak was a medical emergency," Gary added. "We developed a cure because we wanted to prevent the disease from spreading and killing innocent people." What Gary thought was evidence of human compassion, the aliens interpreted as proof that humans were immune to all biological weapons and could develop countermeasures to any pathogen in days. Supreme Coordinator Velthara rose from her position. The entire assembly fell silent. "Commander Thompson," she said, her crystalline voice carrying clearly through the hall, "the Galactic Council has carefully considered everything we have learned about humanity over the past year." Gary felt a surge of hope. Finally, they were going to get the chance to establish proper diplomatic relations. "Your species has demonstrated capabilities far beyond anything previously known to galactic civilization," Velthara continued. "Your military power, industrial capacity, biological superiority, and technological advancement leave no doubt about your position in the cosmic order." "Actually," Gary interrupted, "I think there's been a misunderstanding." "Therefore," Velthara continued, "the Galactic Council formally surrenders to human authority. We offer our complete submission to prevent the destruction of our civilizations." Gary's mouth fell open. "What?" A chorus of agreement rose from the assembly. Representative after representative stood to formally surrender their species to human rule. "We acknowledge human supremacy," declared war leader Grixton of the Zephyrians. "We cannot hope to match your military might. We accept human dominion over our industrial worlds," announced Hivemind Clicktet of the Thornix. "We will provide whatever resources you require." "We submit to human biological authority," said Health Director Yilmex. "Your medical supremacy is beyond question." Nicole grabbed Gary's arm. "What is happening?" I don't know," Gary replied, staring at the assembly in shock. One by one, 300 species formally surrendered to humanity. They offered their worlds as tribute, their fleets as auxiliary forces, their resources as payment for the privilege of continued existence. "This is all a mistake," Gary shouted over the crowd. "We don't want to rule anyone. We just want to be friends." But his protests were interpreted as the magnanimous words of a conqueror who was so powerful he did not need to gloat over his victory. Surely beings this advanced would show mercy to their new subjects. Supreme Coordinator Velthara approached the platform. "The transition of power will begin immediately. What are your orders for your new empire, Commander Thompson?" Gary looked at Nicole, who appeared to be in shock. He looked at the assembly, where hundreds of alien species waited for his commands. He thought about the Horizon's Edge and Captain Morrison, who had started this whole situation by accidentally destroying an alien ship. Gary began, then stopped. How do you explain to an entire galaxy that they had completely misunderstood everything? "We'll need time to consider our administrative policies," Gary finally said. "Of course," Velthara replied. "The Council will wait for your instructions." As Gary and Nicole were escorted to the luxurious quarters that had been prepared for the new galactic rulers, Nicole finally spoke. "Gary, I think we just accidentally conquered the galaxy." "I know," Gary replied, slumping into a chair that had been designed for the comfort of the most powerful beings in known space. "What are we going to tell Earth?" Outside their quarters, 300 species began the process of reorganizing galactic civilization under human rule. Not because humans had demanded it, but because they were absolutely convinced that